All I need is only solutions. that you're mine, but I wish we could pause and press rewind. When I'm not with you, boy, you got me hoping for a redo. Might run out of time, so why can't we just pause and press rewind? When I'm not with you, boy, you got me hoping for a redo. I know that you're rewind. When I'm not with you, boy, you got me hoping for a redo. Might run out of time, so why can't we just pause and press rewind? When I'm not with you, boy, you got me hoping for a redo. I know that you're Somebody, how long he will be on my mind. He will be on my mind. Somebody, how long he will be on my mind.
Yeah, last night was some kind of war. I'm coming down like a waterfall. I check my phone, but you never call. Lost in the ceiling, caught up in the ceiling. I can't seem to let it go. Locked in this cage, I've been stuck here for days, and I can't seem to let you go. You pull me up, and I put you down. You gave me love, then I stole your crown. You let me in, then I pushed you out. Pushed you out, pushed you out. Come let me make up for all these pain. I've been a mess tied by all these chains. Open my eyes, now I finally see. Shut the key, yeah. Can we be free? You pull me up, yeah. Can we be free? And I put you down. Well, I woke up and saw everything. Everything but you next to me. I know that I've been the enemy, but I've had my moment of gravity, moment of gravity. Lost in the ceiling, caught up in the ceiling, I can't seem to let it go. Locked in this cage, I've been stuck here for days and I can't seem to let you go. You pull me up and I put you down. You gave me love, then I stole your crown. You let me in, then I pushed you out. Pushed you out, pushed you out. Come let me make up for all these pain. I've been a mess tied by all these chains. Open my eyes, now I finally see. Shut the key, yeah. Can we be free? You pull me up, yeah. Can we be free? And I put you down. You pull me up and I put you down. You gave me love, then I stole your crown. You let me in, then I pushed you out. Pushed you out, pushed you out. Don't let me make up for all these pain. I've been a mess tied by all these chains. Open my eyes, now I finally see. Shut the key, yeah. You pull me up and I put you down. You gave me love, then I stole your crown. You let me in, then I pushed you out. Pushed you out, pushed you out. Don't let me make up for all these pain. I've been a mess tied by all these chains. Open my eyes, now I finally see. Shut the key, yeah. Can we be free? You pull me up, yeah. Can we be free? And I put you down.
Alright, well, welcome everyone to League of Legends semifinals for GLEC, Manchester versus Trine. We're looking to have a very exciting matchup this evening, as I've been told Manchester and Trine are fairly well balanced with each other. I think both teams gave me something about 50-50 sort of matchup, so we'll just have to see who ends up playing better in the real games tonight. I am listed here as GLEC. My name is John. I've been casting for Trine this entire season so far, pretty much. Most of the games, anyway. And if anybody Trine fans in chat, you might recognize my voice, but not my name or my face. So I think this is the first time I have a camera or am credited at all. And here we are, moving immediately into the draft phase. As we can see, it looks like Manchester has made their first 3 bans immediately. Trine just finishing their 3rd ban here. No surprises. Seraphine, Caitlyn, and Wukong are all things Trine plays. And from looking over the team's shoulders during scouting, I can see that Zillion, Tarek, and Yumi are all things Manchester likes to play. The Syndra is a hotly contested pick. I know, personally, our mid laner has been practicing it for Trine, but, you know, it's just generally really good right now. I think it's a very first pickable sort of champion. Ever since the recent changes that increased reworked the scaling ability on her passive, gave her that big execute. And then next up we have Victor in the mid lane for Trine University. Well, presumably. I know our mid laner has been practicing Victor. I mean, he was practicing Victor immediately before I came on here. So that is a very expected pick. It's something of a comfort pick for him. And next up, in 8 seconds or less, we will have, Sejuani. That is a favorite of the team because it is what they like to call a tri-flex pick, which means it can go top, jungle, or mid. Nope, top, jungle, or support. There we go. And they just like to pick a lot of those early and sort of try to confuse the opposing draft so that they don't really know what matchups they're going into. That said, we get the Trundle and the Darius immediately. The Darius most likely top lane, because that is where Darius goes most of the time. The Trundle likely to be jungle, as the Syndra is already mid. I know Trundle support has been kind of a thing in past seasons, although this year I haven't seen it that much at all. I don't think I've seen it in GLEC at all. Oh, the Kled. I just realized that got through. So Trine's top laner was a Kled one-trick for several years. He has 400,000 mastery points on Kled, and if you need context for how big that is, you get roughly 5,000 for winning and 1,000 for losing. So he's a big fan of Kled. Normally teams just try to ban it out against Trine immediately. So this is exciting. We'll get to see something that not a lot of Great Lakes Esports Conference audiences have gotten to see, at least this year or last year. Before that, can't vouch. As far as bans go, we're having more focus on the support role. We're getting the Lulu taken out by Manchester University, Trine University taking out the Karma. Karma, of course, can also go mid, I guess, but as they've already picked the Syndra, we can sort of assume that that is a support. And in 10 seconds or less, we will see Trine University's final ban of the game. It's notable that Manchester has not picked their bottom lane yet. Oh, that is the Renata, yes. So Trine has banned 5 supports. Manchester has banned 3 supports. There's gonna be a lot of focus on the bottom lane in this game. I would imagine the junglers would also spend a lot of time there. Although, it's tough because I know Trine's bottom lane duo together have a very wide champion pool. So you can't really ban them out as such. And in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, we get the Misfortune. Very teamfight oriented pick. This is what is known at Trine University as the comp, because it is the first comp that the team, as they are now, learned how to play, which is basically just group up into a big team fight and, you know, try to split the opposing team in half with as much damage as possible, as quickly as possible. Sejuani stun. Kled moving everybody into position, the Victor ult, the Misfortune ult. And then in response, we're getting the Jinx, one of your classic auto attack based hyper carries, and the Leona. So that's a fairly aggressive lane in the bottom lane. We'll have to see how Trine University responds after Manchester picks the Leona, locks it in. Well, I mean, they've got 10 seconds of mandated time that they are allowed to change their mind. Or they were just waiting. Yes, they were just waiting. Okay. So, as far as matchups go, this is looking to be a very active game. Normally, in a lot of these collegiate esports League of Legends events, you have somewhat passive early games, but, you know, Darius wants to fight immediately. Kled wants to fight immediately. Jinx, Leona, again, looking to fight as soon as possible, as much as possible. And whichever team ends up ahead off of that can end up going crazy with it. Oh, the Jarvan, yet another part of, air quotes, the comp, can sort of lock the whole team into a certain area and just get some absolute brutality going from the Misfortune and from the Victor ultimates there. So it's hard to say without watching it because a lot of these matchups in this game are going to end up coming down to the skill of the players. I know Darius and Kled could go either way depending on who is better at their champion or who gets more jungle support. Although, like I said, Trundle and the Sejuani might want to both focus on the bottom lane, Trine because they... Oh, well, Jarvan's the jungler for Trine, but Trine's jungler might want to focus on the bottom lane because the support and ADC are looking to sort of scale out of control and hypercarry the game. Manchester is looking for much the same thing and has better gank set up with Leona than even Sejuani does. One of the only champions that can say that. Very exciting. And, of course, mid lane, as always, probably just going to be a little bit of a farm fest early on. As, you know, every mid lane player wants to just get as much gold as possible, as quickly as possible, and sort of poke back and forth, but never really commit to anything. Because the first person to die mid lane gets clips of them posted to Twitter. All right. So while we're waiting for the spectator delay here, we can kind of see... Yeah, all right, thanks. You can kind of see from both team strategies that they're both considering themselves about equal. That's roughly what I was saying before the game. They're looking to fight each other because there's no real belief that one team is better than the other one. A lot of times in these games you'll have a sort of mismatch of, you know, team power levels, so you'll have overly focus on safety for one team and the other team going way too aggressive to try to counterbalance it. I mean, even earlier in this tournament we've seen that a lot. But this time both teams are sort of committing to actively fighting at most points throughout the game. I don't think we'll be able to say that again in Game 2 or Game 3, but for right now it's sure to make an interesting matchup. Next up, I'm pretty sure that neither team is going to change their bans too much even after the game. Maybe Manchester might move to ban Kled next time, depending on how well he does this game. But those both just seem like very solid bans. If you're having a lot of focus on the bottom lane anyway, which it seems like both teams are, banning a lot of supports does make sense. They sort of control the pace of the lane. And banning, you know, specific mid laners or junglers or top laners doesn't really have the same broad reach and effect on the state of the game that just banning a support would have. So one thing that Trine does great at, or I've seen them do great at before, is playing around these carries in the bottom lane, but this comp seems a little more split up in who exactly is being given the farm and the damage. Because of course, you know, Victor also wants it, Kled also wants it a little bit. He doesn't necessarily need it as badly as someone like the Misfortune or the Victor, but, you know, where the farm goes is kind of important. As far as Manchester goes, Darius can kind of just hold his own. He'll probably just pick up some gold here and there, various kills across the game. Jinx, of course, demands the lion's share of the farm to try to get that third item, Power Spike, and really take over the game. And then, you know, Syndra and Trundle, both just sort of power farmy champions in their own way. Syndra most likely to stay in the mid lane a lot. Trundle, of course, taking all of the jungle camps in his and Trine's jungle. Of course, I haven't seen too much of Manchester playing as compared to Trine University, but it is just good to sort of have a sense of what these different champions do most of the time, because a lot of the time you'll see these collegiate esports players end up relying on the broader skills of the champion. You won't see exactly some off-meta picks here. No, Samira top or Darius mid even would just be a little bit too far outside the comfort zone. I'm sure these players, well, they are all great. Definitely don't have the broad experience and champion pool necessary to just throw a complete curveball like that at us, except for maybe in a very few situations. Not to spoil anything in case Trine does decide to go for it, but I was discussing with the mid laner and jungler about a certain strategy that they have been workshopping that is not necessarily done enough to be dragged out, but you never know what'll happen, especially in game 2 or game 3, depending on how this game goes. So Sejuani, like we said, a flex pick can go in one of 3 lanes, so your opponents don't really know what to draft around. That one of 2 that Trine has really been leaning on this year. I know that they've also been looking at Maokai a lot as a champion that can sort of go anywhere. In my experience, we haven't seen the Maokai be very successful in any of the roles they've chosen for him, but they certainly do keep trying it. And in fact, in one game where I was subbed in for the top laner, I had to play Maokai, and that was quite a bit less good than I would have expected, given the amount of priority the team places on it all the time. Manchester, I'm sure, has the same sort of draft strategy going on, where the whole team might have different ideas of what they want to do, but when you're playing together in a 5-stack in a competitive environment, you're gonna have to make some sacrifices, like for every Syndra that gets picked as a safe control mage, there is a Katarina player who has recognized that that is a horrible choice in a more coordinated environment like this. Same for Trundle. He's definitely a very just rock-solid pick as compared to the more popular junglers, like I believe Sunfire Diana is back in the meta in the jungle, and Echo is back in the meta in the jungle as well, I believe. Both of which very high-risk, high-reward picks that rely on your opponents maybe not being as coordinated as 5 people in a voice call in a serious competition. And in the bottom lane, Jinx, Leona, Misfortune, and Sejuani, those are all just kind of evergreen picks. Sejuani really rose to prominence this season in any role but jungle. Before that, she was just kind of exclusively a jungler. I'm not really sure what changed. I think they might have given her more damage or something, but you're kind of seeing her everywhere these days. Jinx and Leona, of course, have been ADC and support, very popular in their respective roles for the entire time that they've been in the game. And Misfortune released as an ADC and has stayed an ADC. I think one of the very few that have moved to mid lane in certain more damage-heavy seasons, but then, quickly nerfed and shoved back into the bottom lane because having too many of these broad flex picks can seriously affect not only collegiate esport play, but also the big professional circuit that ends up with a lot of money on the line and a lot of people being very mad if it sort of devolves into like trying to guess what your opponent's team is even doing before they guess what yours is. And it looks like we're moving to the game here in a second, or we will be on a black screen for a second. So that should... Apologies if you hear any noise in the background. That's some people get very excited. Okay, so we are in the game. Trine versus Manchester League of Legends semifinals. As we can see already, something has happened. I'm not really sure what. It looks like Kled placed a ward, Trundle destroyed it, and Kled got beat back bad enough that he had to return to base. So that was... Luckily, no one died and used summoner spells, so there was no big thing we missed. Both teams kind of having a normal start here with their junglers on their respective blue buffs being leashed by their respective laners, whichever one's closer to the blue buff. In the mid lane, like I said, just some poke back and forth, but, you know, especially at level 1, you're not going to commit to anything. And, you know, probably even at like levels 2, 3, 4, 5, if the jungler doesn't come, you're not going to see that much fighting in the mid lane. In the top lane, we're having a certainly much more aggressive matchup, it looks like. And in the bottom lane, as predicted, we're just having supports running at the other ADC and doing not too much in the process. Of course, that said, we are having... Oh, it looks like Trine hit level 2 first, immediately decided to push their advantage onto the Leona. Leona had to flash out, but now the Jinx just takes a bunch of damage for free. That is an Ignite down from Magic Griffin, the Trine support, but he is no longer able to use that Ignite to fully kill the opposing laner. And it looks like Leona also spent a flash there. Certainly very interesting that these two teams would not play around these, you know, immediate power spikes like fast level 2 in the bottom lane. In the top lane, we are having Kled push to tower. He's 12 CS up. He's sort of crashing the wave in. I wonder why the Darius backed. I don't think we saw that much happening in the top lane last time we looked. And in the jungle, looks like both teams are roughly equivalent in farm. Although it looks like Trundle is looking to gank in the bottom lane here in a second while Jarvan is still clearing his Raptors. Of course, Trine does have vision on that spot. I don't know if Manchester knows that. It looks like they're not going to actually commit to it, but it's just really interesting that they would look this early, especially when it's a Trundle who can't necessarily lock down people or do that much damage without items. In the top lane, we're having Darius catch up and farm there, but yes, okay. Here is the Scuttle Crab, the directed camera kind of freaking out. There's not that much like action happening, so it's just sort of jumping to anyone who's killing anything at any time. That's a lot of fun. Or I guess people who are just auto-attacking things over and over. So I know Hairless Crab, Trine's mid laner, and the Victor player in this game, has been seriously practicing his minion last hitting, because he's had sort of a problem with that in the past. Oh, in the top lane, it looks like we just had a fight happen, except Jarvan's going to come in and try to clean it up on the Darius. Kled, it doesn't look like has anything left. Oh, he'll just run in and get it anyway, or he'll get it for the Jarvan there. It is a fantastic play by Trine in a first blood. It looks like Panda Turtle Bear, Manchester's top laner, ended up using Ghost for that, and it did not work out for him at all. Trading only for, looks like Kettle Whip's Ignite. Kettle Whip, in fact, does not have Flash at all, which is, it's a new and interesting concept to just straight up not take Flash. For a long time, it was considered required on everyone as the single best summoner spell. But now we're seeing some more versatile options, especially in the top lane. Oh, Leona going in. Maybe that's a little ill-advised. The Sejuani flash onto the Jinx, except Jinx will just flash out. Manchester's bottom lane kind of taking a beating here. Nothing's going to turn into a kill just yet, but they're running low on resources, and Trine can keep going in as often as Sejuani Q is off cooldown. In the top lane, the Darius kind of catches out the Kled, except he manages to just dash out and escape. There's that 400,000 mastery points experience for you. Very interesting stuff. And it looks like Jarvan's coming to maybe dive in the bottom lane, or maybe just de-ward and leave, except Trundle's showing up. And he knows Jarvan's there, and they're just going to mutually agree to not fight each other. Because, especially this early, it could go either way, and neither team wants to give the other team that advantage. Except, Trundle's staying around to try to gank. I don't think he knows Jarvan's still there. Jarvan kind of moving in, but tower diving this early is not really advisable. Oh, and in the top lane, we're just having Kled just beat the snot out of this Darius. That is a ton of damage immediately. Does he have another dash to get in? No, but he'll land the Q, and it'll pull, and it'll get the kill for him. That is a solo kill in the top lane. Darius has now died twice in 6 minutes. That is not a good place to be for Manchester. Of course, you know, if Trundle was there, things would have turned out differently, but Trine did know that Trundle was in the bottom lane because of all that chicanery that happened. And in the mid lane, we are having peaceful farming time. I think both of them are mostly doing just fine. Neither team can really afford to gank the middle lane yet because it's so short that either team can just sort of escape with flash, which they both have up. They have both used their teleports to get back to lane at some point. That stuff's not going to come into play for the mid lane for a long, long time, so expect a recap of that later on into the game. In the top lane, Kled is now level 7, Darius is level 5, and of course with Kled's ult, he can just sort of sprint back into lane and immediately deal a bunch of damage to Darius. We'll see if that's what he goes for. Other than that, it looks like everyone is mostly even. In the bottom lane, we have 4 level 5s. In the jungle, we have 2 level 5s. And in the mid lane, we have 2 level 7s. So all that makes sense. Darius' flash and Ghost are up. He probably won't get killed again just yet. But if he has to use either of them on just Kled, that probably is going to be really bad for Manchester in the long run. Oh, yes, we get the Kled ultimate immediately. And you know, just a bunch of damage, but he manages to ghost and flash out as predicted. He almost dies there, but just barely not. And then in the bottom lane, we're having an all-out fight. Misfortune immediately ulting it, except Leona will keep going in after they both barely escape with their lives and end up having to flash out. That's even without the Sejuani ultimate, so when that comes down as another long stun, you have to imagine Manchester's going to be in a bad place. And then in the top lane, or on the Manchester side blue buff, Jarvan just kind of engaging on his own. He can't really fight the Trundle at this point, and the Kled's not really in a position to help him. I'm not sure what that's about, but Trundle manages to catch him out, beat him up until his flash pops, and then, of course, yeah, you don't want to chase after that, because if they're flashing away, you have to imagine their top laner is kind of nearby at least. So we're having a full reset in the bottom lane from Trine. Important to note that even though there was a kill advantage in the bottom lane just now, they are roughly equal in total gold. The kill's only worth 300, and 300 doesn't really get you anything of importance. As we can see here, it kind of just got Misfortune new shoes, which don't have too much of an impact on the game state, especially this early. Although, in combination with Misfortune's extra movement speed passive, could lead to some very aggressive play here soon. Although, of course, Jinx does have completely finished boots, which are better but do less damage than just buying a pickaxe, as Misfortune did. In the bottom lane, we are having more footage of jungling. And then, it looks like Trine is trying to set up a pick bush here. The way this works is that as soon as Jinx or Leona walks up... Oh. Well, my mistake. Either way, as soon as either one of them looks up, it will explode. Trine will explode onto them, immediately try to get a kill. Especially with Jarvan walking up, they will most likely get the kill that they're looking for if one of Manchester's bottom lane walks a little bit too close. Okay, and then in the mid lane, more fighting. Oh, so the Sejuani is just going to try to ult it immediately, prompting the Misfortune to also ult it, except the Jinx Chompers come down just in time to save their lives, especially since that ult hit Leona. It just leads to no kill at all. Well, Trundle is here, but so is Jarvan, and Jarvan's not looking at leaving anytime soon. They both do have ult up. This could turn into a full-on 3v3 if it goes the wrong way. And instead, it looks like both teams are just going to try to get vision control for the dragon eventually. Kled in the top lane is just taking Rift Herald on his own. That's normally a jungler objective, but as he's winning so much, you can see, well, on the mini-map there, I don't think we've cut to him yet. He's just going for it. Yep, there we go. So, of course, the way this objective works, even though it looks like it has a lot of health, is it pops an eye out on the back, and then if you hit it, you get massive damage. So if you just hit it a bunch of times, you can solo it in not too much time at all. And Trine taking the opportunity to just take a dragon while also Kled gets Rift Herald on his own. He can now use that to break down at least 2 plates of the tower. That's going to put him at even more of an advantage, especially considering the global buff of the Cloud Dragon here. That is some value play by Trine. It's not giving them any gold or big advantages at the moment, but all these sort of small things kind of tend to add up. Especially if Kled manages to kill Darius one more time, he might be able to just straight up take the tower off the strength of that Rift Herald. In the bottom lane, we're seeing some posturing as if to fight. Sejuani does not have ult, Misfortune does not have ult, but both of Manchester's bottom laners do. I have to imagine if this comes to a fight, Manchester is looking like they might win here, especially considering how close both teams are in items. In the top lane, Kled hasn't really pushed his lead as far as I would have expected, especially considering he's 44 CS up and a kill up. He isn't really turning that into much, advantage, just sort of snowballing it into more and more gold advantage. That it will be helpful in the long run, but, sometimes the people want blood, just see something exciting happen. I would have expected a lot more combat. In the mid lane, oh, we are getting the combat I was asking for. I think if Syndra had managed to ult there, it might have killed even. But instead, both teams ult, use their full combo. And both walk away standing. No one even has to flash. Although Victor does have teleport advantage, which means he will be able to come back to lane immediately if necessary, whereas Syndra does not. So if she backs, she's committing to backing. She's going to have to walk all the way back. In the top lane, Kled is now 2 levels up. Despite what I was just saying, how is he 2 levels up? It doesn't seem like that should be that kind of advantage, He's just kind of taking more last hits, but as long as you're standing in range, you get the experience. Well, either way. Oh, he's going to drop the Rift Herald immediately and just take the 2 free plates, I guess. Darius can't really contest this. I think he's assuming that because Kled dropped it, there has to be some bigger plan, but it really is just Kled kind of dropping it. But that does mean that he has now taken 4 tower plates for a total gold value of, I think, plus 640 even? That is a big chunk of change, considering a kill is only 300. And he's already a kill up. That's got to turn into a whole item advantage soon, if Manchester's not careful. Although of course Manchester's still playing around the bottom lane. Trundle is there, ready to gank, except Trine is not pushing up at all. They managed to ward over the wall and stop that gank in its tracks, because now since they know it's coming, Manchester knows they know it's coming. They just sort of leave. They can't really risk it, especially at this point. They're already 3 kills down, roughly 3,000 gold down, and have lost both of the jungle objectives so far. Oh my god, Kled just took the top lane turret with help from his jungler. I think they waited for Darius to back and just immediately pushed for tower. That is even more advantage. That 3k lead I just mentioned has now turned into 4k. If you look at the gold here, Darius has roughly 3,600, whereas Kled has 6,200. That's almost double, or that is double even. In the bottom lane, we're seeing not nearly that much of a difference. It's just 400, and considering, one team has a kill and the other one doesn't, that's exactly what is to be expected. Ooh, it's turned into 600, actually. Yeah, I shouldn't speak so fast. Oh, and then we just get the straight-up Misfortune ult. I don't think she's planning on killing anyone here. I think that was just kind of... oh, never mind. Well, what I was going to say is I think she was just planning on backing and was just going to use it, because it's going to be on cooldown anyway, but no. The Leona here, Akira for Manchester, just kind of walks into the Sejuani. I don't think she knew was there. Oh, they do have a ward there. I wonder, was she trying to contest that ward, or was she just trying to avoid the Misfortune ult? Either way, she ends up walking directly into the Sejuani, taking a big chunk of damage and getting Trine's bottom lane their 2nd kill of the game. Ah, I see we have a fan in chat. That is fantastic news. Trine only has so many. All right, so looking at the various CS amounts now, Darius is at 90, whereas Kled is at 134. You do not want to see that as a Manchester fan. Anything over 30 is, a huge advantage in one side, whereas the entire rest of the team is roughly matching their lane opponents, which is, much better. They just need to sort of shore up this top lane somehow, although Kled's kind of running away with the game here. As I said, Kettle Whip, once upon a time, had an account named Scarl Marks, Scarl being Cled's pet. So you can see how dedicated he was to the champion. 400,000 mastery points takes a very long time to get to. Oh, we see the Sejuani ult into, oh my god. The Jinx is almost immediately going to die, although she has a stopwatch to save it, but the Ignite from the Kled is going to get it anyway, and then Trine's bottom lane gets a second kill after a second stopwatch by Manchester's bottom lane. Manchester is now 2 players down, and the turret is just open. It looks like the turret's just straight up going to die here, and I don't think I remarked on it, but Trine have taken their second dragon of the game. It is now 0-6. Trine is roughly 6,000 gold up. This is not looking good for Manchester in game 1. Trine's even going to try to take this second Rift Herald, which I don't think Manchester's in a position to defend properly. So even though Trine no longer has their Sejuani ult or Jarvan ult, there's not going to be a team fight for Manchester to try to win. In the bottom lane, we can see Syndra and Victor have just sort of both moved down there to continue with their mutual farming agreement. Neither have been involved in any kills for either team, which is just very funny to me. I mean, you know, just 2 people kind of just walking around and letting things happen around them. You gotta respect it. Hairless Crab thinks Syndra might be hiding in the bush there, except she is in fact not, because she has just left the lane to go spend more money, which I'm sure he will do soon. The junglers, again, still basically matched in farm. Trundle's a little bit ahead, but Jarvan makes up for that with his kill participation. And then, other than that, Manchester has not gotten a single kill so far. If they're going to turn it around, it kind of has to be soon, because the farther this gold advantage grows, the harder it's going to be to change the course of this game. As we can see, both Manchester and Trine ended up with the same mythic items for their ADCs. Their junglers went different directions, and their mid laners went different directions. But of note, Trine has finished all 5 of their mythic items, whereas Manchester's top laner and support do not have those items yet, those items being some of the most impactful in the game. Kraken Slayer having a huge damage increase to ADCs, and Sejuani's choice, Solari Shield? I think it used to be called Locket of the Solari. That is no longer the name, but I'm sorry, but I'm completely blanking on the new name. They only changed it just a couple seasons ago. And it gives a big shield to anyone in an area, something that can completely change the course of a fight depending on when and how it's used. Leona, I think, is building toward the same item, but just hasn't gotten there yet. And then, of course, top laners just want more damage, so they get the Gore Drinker, which gives them a lot of damage. Kled has finished his, Darius has not. Actually, Darius might be going for Stridebreaker, the new item that, well, new-ish, that slows down people so you can continue fighting them better. But if he is, I have to imagine that's a little bit of a strange choice, since he's not really in a position to be fighting anyone. Plus with Ghost, he can kind of keep up with everyone besides Kled, and if he's trying to fight Kled on his own, I have some bad news for him. It has not worked so well so far. Trine now, 7,500 gold up, 3 towers up, 2 dragons up. They've gotten both Rift Heralds, although that's not showed on the overlay anymore, and of course the Baron is up, but you have to imagine if it comes to a fight right now, Trine might just take that too. And it's 0-6 for Trine. This is looking like it's going to be a quick end here. They are at 20 minutes. And they're still looking for picks at 20 minutes, which means that they are trying to press this advantage as much as possible. They're not committing to full-on team fighting just yet, because they know that if they can catch out Syndra, Jinx, or even Trundle or Darius just 1 or 2 more times, they might be able to take even more free objectives off of that, turn that into immediately ending the game instead of ending the game at some point in the future. Yes, that good notice there. All this background noise is from Smash. Smash does get very excited about their games, more excited than a lot of League fans get about ours. We might have to fix that somehow. But as you can hear, every time someone wins a set, they just kind of blow up completely. And Trine just now traded 2 ultimate abilities for Darius's Ghost. So, not the biggest win. Oh, they got Trundle's Flash too, so not the biggest win, but, you know, as long as they manage to avoid fighting for the next 70 or so seconds, I'm getting word that background noise might be Valorant, actually. Either way, you know, never hear that stuff for League of Legends. So, if you're listening at home and no one will get too bothered by you cheering, just give out like a huge cheer right now for whichever team you're rooting for. Either Trine to continue crushing this game 1, or Manchester to turn it around, or at the very least, win game 2, because they are now, still 7,500 gold behind. No major changes in the game state since the last time I analyzed every single bit of our overlay here. It looks like Trine is going for their 3rd dragon of the game. Of course, if they get 4, they get the permanent huge buff known as the Dragon Soul. Every team wants it. Every team wants the other team to not have it. And the only way to stop someone from having it is to stop them from taking dragons. But again, as mentioned, they can't really afford to fight here. They're going to go in and try anyway. The Darius immediately takes a stun. The Leona is dying here, but so is the Kled, and the Sejuani kind of gets caught out, although the Darius gets blown up as well. And it looks like Jarvan is kind of out of position. Nobody can get on the Syndra properly, but the Trundle's not dying either. Oh, we see the Misfortune ultimate coming down and immediately killing the Syndra and the Trundle afterwards, leaving only... Oh, never mind. I was going to say only Jinx alive, but we get the flash out from Victor. That is an ace for Trine. 2 for 5, and they get the dragon anyway. That is disheartening for Manchester fans, I'm sure. They can't... Trine at least cannot take any major objectives off of this, because Baron is a little too strong to take with just 3 people that are all mostly dead anyway. And there's no tower that's really ready to be pushed down. Top lane would be the closest, but, you know, the wave's a little far away, and it's really far away from Dragon, so they'd spend the whole time that Manchester's dead just sort of walking there and then probably get killed in a fight anyway. So just taking small advantages and then recalling is the play to make here, and they see that. Trine now has 3 of their people with these big bounties. 150 bonus gold for killing Jarvan or Victor, and 700 bonus gold for killing Misfortune. This is definitely going to be Manchester's path back into the game. On top of that, they have the objective bounties active, which is plus 600 gold if they manage to kill Baron. Oh, and we see just the immediate Jarvan ult trying to catch Leona out, except the Sejuani ult's going to miss. Leona managed to flash out of the Jarvan ult, and the Kled ult just whiffed completely, except Darius has no escapes left, and just goes down, unfortunately. Like I was saying, if Manchester manages to take this Baron, they get 600 extra gold, on top of the 1,500 I believe it already gives, 300 for each member of the team. But it's not looking like that's going to happen just yet. Even Trine's not going for it, and they just got a pick. Oh, we're going to see Misfortune just trying to ult and kill Jinx under her own tower from full health. Of course it doesn't work, but it gets way too close for my liking. That is a very aggressive play from Trine, not the kind of thing you see normally. Trine usually very reserved when it comes to these late game fights, trying to play everything perfectly and not, you know, just trying to run people down in their own tower. So, other objective bounties, they'll get 300 gold for any tower they take down, 480 if it's an inner. There are no inners available, actually. They have not taken a single outer tower yet, so Manchester has to look to do that first. That is 300 gold, which is nothing to sneeze at. And if they manage to get Dragon, they also get the 600 gold, on top of temporarily denying the soul from Trine. And if they manage to do that 4 times in a row, they get to take their the soul themselves, which this game, as it is the Earth Dragon, is just a huge shield, which, you know, it's helpful. It's certainly not the most impactful of the Dragon Souls, but you can never complain when you're just getting one for free. And of course, you know, you're fighting over it. It's not necessarily free, but in a literal sense, it is kind of just free extra thing for your character that you don't have to pay for. And then in the bottom lane, we have Kled positioning very aggressively. I'm not sure he knew Trundle was there, but he might have been looking to go on the Syndra there if she was alone. Jinx is completely alone, and it looks like Trine have picked up on that. Sejuani going in, misses the ult, but manages to land the W, and the big slow from the ult field just takes her down immediately. The Jarvan ult landing onto 2 people. Trundle has to flash out. Darius is just trapped. Darius is between the entire team and ends up just going down. We can pretend that's for us if we want. I don't think it is. And then Trine, gonna continue going. We see the flash Q from the Sejuani, maybe a little unnecessary, except the stopwatch is gonna keep her from dying even under tower. They don't manage to actually kill the Syndra, as she does have the full Zhonya's Hourglass item, but Trine does just manage to catch out Leona here as we speak. And, the Misfortune flash onto the Syndra, she goes down immediately. Manchester only has 2 players up. Trine has all 4 of their players. They don't have any major abilities yet, but they can look to just take these big towers here and almost end the game, maybe even end the game entirely. Trundle gets cut out by the Victor, but Trine doesn't manage to turn that into anything. And Misfortune actually does not have flash right now, is the big target for Manchester, but she can just run out with her ability. And it looks like we're having a little bit of technical difficulties here. I would like to get back to that game, or that might imply that the game is over. Oh no, the spectator client crashed, so we will have just a little while here of just me talking about how the game has gone so far as we wait for the spectator client to come back up. So what we're going to look to change if we're Manchester for the next game is probably to ban the Kled. That top lane snowball has kind of gone a little too far. Okay. Well, Trine won, apparently. And the game did not crash. The spectator client closed because it did not give us the last 3 minutes of the game. So that's not cool. But either way, did we really need to see the last fight? At that point, the game's kind of already over. It's unfortunate we can't see it happen. It's always a big hype moment at the end of the game with everybody around the Nexus, like, fighting. But, we got enough fighting, I think, to at least hold me over to Game 2. But either way, it is... Manchester's going to have to work on their game plan, I think, because whatever their plan was, that game did not end up working. I think they were looking to play around the bottom lane, as I kept saying, but it never really happened. They're going to have to try, probably, to play around either the top lane or the mid lane instead, because the bottom lane is just clearly playing so defensively that going there is not an option. All right. So we're going to take a quick break here going into Game 2 of Manchester versus Trine League of Legends Semifinals. I have a lot of hopes riding on the second game. I think it's going to be a very exciting thing to see how each team responds to the events of that first game. But until then, I guess you all should go get popcorn, a snack, or anything. Walk your dog, if you haven't in a while. Right. And okay, I don't know if these sounds I'm getting are coming through on the stream, but I am just hearing like late game misfortune noises, which I think is the spectator client's last gasps. So that is really exciting. If that is coming through, you can kind of hear that there's a big, exciting team fight happening that we just can't see. I mean, it's really funny. It's not like... This isn't good. This isn't a good thing that this happened. But, I like it, kind of. This is If you can't hear this, then I'm sure I just sound completely insane. But I just heard the game end, so probably I'll stop getting these phantom noises here in a second. And again, Game 2 will happen soon-ish. There's a long time between games in these series because League of Legends, the pick process is very slow and deliberate, and both teams sort of going back and forth and strategizing and re-strategizing as each new thing happens. But hopefully this doesn't happen again. We can see the whole game. Either way, well, thank you very much for watching so far, and I hope to see you again soon when our next game starts.
I know that you're mine, but I wish we could pause and press rewind when I'm not with you. Boy, you got me hoping for a redo. Might run out of time, so why can't we just pause and press rewind when I'm not with you?
All right, welcome back, everybody, to Game 2 of Manchester University versus Trine University League of Legends GLEC Semifinals, or as we call it, GLEC, stands for Great Lakes Esports Conference. So going into this game here, we're going to have three things that we're going to be looking at. First thing is, how do each team change their draft strategy based on the last game? I think we'll see different bans at least. The second thing is, how does Manchester keep the pressure on? That last game, I know from experience, can be a little bit disheartening when something like that happens to you, but keeping confident and keeping away from being, as we call it, tilted, but really just like upset about it. Keep moving forward with a positive attitude. How well can they do that? We'll see it come through in their gameplay, I'm sure. And the third thing is, how do we make the spectator client not crash again? That last one should be a given. That last one should be pretty easy. As we can see, Manchester University has the... Oh. Wait. Never mind. Trine University has the blue side here, which means that they will be the first to ban and the first to pick. So when they are ready, we will see if any changes have been diagnosed, need to be made. I'm almost certain Manchester University will focus more bans on the top lane than they did last time, considering they banned no champions for the top lane. I'm expecting at least one. That Kled did a lot for Trine. As far as Trine goes, I think you might want to ban anything that counters Syndra, because I know they want to pick Syndra first, as Manchester did last game. Certainly a very strong champion right now, and something they know how to play. Manchester might look to ban it as they no longer have first pick, but if not, we will see if Trine really pushes their opportunity with that, or focuses again on the bottom lane and bans 5 supports, like they did. And we're starting off immediately with one of the same bans from last game. That is Zillion ban from Trine. Manchester banning the Seraphine, the same ban. Trine banning the Taric, the same ban. Manchester. Oh, they banned the Sejuani. That was in the last game, and was a change. I guess they were really impressed with, I believe, Magic Griffin's piloting of the Sejuani. We get the Wukong ban. Trine does not play Wukong, to my knowledge. I have not seen Trine play Wukong either way. And they did not ban the Kled, notable, so Trine might look to pick it either second or third here. Manchester going into their first pick. All they know is that Trine is looking to play Caitlyn. Caitlyn, as the longest range ADC, does not have any natural counters, except maybe Lucian if the team comps are right, but even that is kind of a hard pull here. Oh, and we're getting the Nocturne. I believe that's for the jungle. That is a very aggressive pick. He's an early game machine, assassin jungler looking to get an advantage as fast as possible and press it as hard as possible. Given what we saw from the jungles in the last game, that's a change from the Trundle sort of stay back and wait till your team is all together to even try it. When we get the Varus, so Varus, I believe, was picked in the World's Finals here just a couple, I think a week ago. Just generally an all-around strong champion, the ultimate being able to lock down someone completely and maybe even lock down other champions as well is a very strong moment for the character. And then besides that, just being able to do a lot of damage at a lot of range means that he'll be good in team fights. Even if Caitlyn is capable of shutting him down a little bit, he'll be able to still remain relevant through his abilities that fight from farther with more damage. As I mentioned in the draft phase of the last game, if we can remember all the way back there, Trine University taking the Maokai very highly. Nobody on their team really plays Maokai, but he can go in any lane, which means Manchester's draft strategy might have to be more adaptable than they're comfortable being. So giving up some strength with like actual laning phase and gameplay in exchange for like the mind game advantage here, which is it's debatable if that's a worthwhile trade. Trine seems to think it does. They picked the Jarvan again. That is the same pick as last game. It did very well for them. It's not really a big surprise. Although what is a big surprise is that they did not pick Kled. Manchester can now ban Kled if they like with their last two bans because they know Trine has not yet picked a top laner besides Maokai. Or they could just use their two bans to focus even more on supports. Although with the dominant performance of Trine's ADC in the last game, I would not expect banning more supports to be helpful. Yes, we see the Kled ban immediately. It makes sense. It did a lot, let's say. Even if I'm maybe overrating how strong it was, it did allow them to press their advantage more than almost any other pick would by just running their whole team into Manchester's whole team and accelerating these fights. Trine banning the Darius, that was Manchester's top lane pick last game. So just eye for an eye, so to speak. And we're getting the last bans here in less than 10 seconds. We will have Manchester's last ban, Morgana. Okay, that's interesting. Because I've been talking to Magic Griffin, who is Trine support, which is where Morgana would be played. And he's not good at hitting straight line skill shots, other than Seraphine. He acknowledges that that's like weird, but you know, still. The moral of what I got from that conversation is that he's basically soft banned from playing any champion whose big, powerful moment relies on their straight line skill shot ability, like Morgana. That was one of the specific ones mentioned. I kept suggesting in his counter picks to things, and he kept saying, I will not play that under any circumstances. So it's a little bit of a weird ban here. Manchester picking Ornn. Solid top lane pick. Trine University banned Azir. We didn't see the Azir in the last game. I don't think he's very good right now necessarily. I don't even know if Manchester can play him, but I assume if Trine's banning it, they can. You see him a lot in these highly coordinated environments, except maybe at like a higher level even than the collegiate level. He's a very, very difficult champion. People who are good at him generally aren't good at a lot of other champions because, you know, they focus exclusively on the one. Or they're professional players who play for 8 hours a day for lots of money. Neither of which I think applies to Manchester University, so it's interesting that they saw that as ban-worthy. Trine has picked Mordekaiser for the top lane to counterpick Ornn. Not necessarily a counterpick, just kind of, they're both agreeing that the lane is off limits and they're just going to focus on the late game. And Trine takes the Victor, did well last game, no surprise. And Manchester takes the Syndra. Well, actually, that is a bit of a surprise. I thought Trine University would have gone for the Syndra, because they've been talking about how good she is right now, and they both use the same sort of setup as like burst mages that, you know, they seem almost interchangeable, except maybe Syndra's stun and damage is a little bit more guaranteed than Victor's is. That ultimate, especially, and being able to just completely take someone out of a game is very powerful. I wonder if they picked the Victor because they don't actually have a specific person they're planning on targeting to that level. So, just looking at matchups right now, like I said, Ornn and Mordekaiser is kind of a nothing matchup. I don't think a lot's going to happen there for a while. If it is, it's going to be Mordekaiser dying because he's having problems in lane, which is, you know, it would be disappointing, but not necessarily unexpected. Mordekaiser, definitely a champion that seems to do more than he does, which could mean, you know, Trine gets a little overconfident and goes for something they maybe shouldn't. As we can hear in the background here, the these picks are being redone in the client for the simple reason that not every player has access to all the characters, and pick order is decided a little at random and a little bit based on strategy. So, you know, if you want like, oh, we want Caitlyn first pick, and then your top laner, who has to be first pick by the order of how the lobby works, does not own Caitlyn, then you just can't pick it. So instead we use a drafting tool and push that through, and then redo the same draft in the client as quickly as possible. So all these voice lines in the background, yes, that is the Yumi ban voice lines. So they are roughly at the point where Trine University put their last ban. That's the Wukong ban voice line. Going to go to actual picks. Stream cannot. Okay, so I'm talking like a crazy person, and that's a lot of fun. Basically, I'm hearing this, and no one else is, which is, you know, it's a little distracting to me, but, you know, at least that's proof the client's working, right? That's an improvement. In the bottom lane, we are having Caitlyn Maokai, it looks like, as the support against Varus Thresh. Thresh is a very aggressive support, much like Leona. If he can land a Q, he can probably try to get a kill, especially in the late game. Whereas Maokai, kind of more defensive. He has a lot of disengage. He can lock down Varus if necessary and push people back. So it looks like Caitlyn's going to look to farm, and Varus is going to look to fight. So we'll have to see which strategy works out, although Caitlyn does have the longer range, so I don't think Varus' chances are the best. Other than that, we have Nocturne versus Jarvan jungle. Nocturne can gank better at level 6 and worse before level 6. So we'll have to see if Jarvan pushes this early advantage as far as it will go, or if they both just kind of power farm until level 6, and then Nocturne kind of runs over the game from there. In the top lane, we already gone over that. In the middle lane, Victor versus Syndra. We saw that last game. I'm expecting almost exactly the same thing, except maybe with the addition of a couple ganks from Nocturne. He's one of those champions who really can gank the mid lane, even though it's a shorter one, just by nature of having a spell shield, so Victor can't really like fight back as well as you know, Syndra would be able to fight back the Jarvan. I think these junglers both start blue buff as well, although it is important to note that some junglers like to start red buff, especially in this meta, just because it keeps their health higher as they go, so they can sort of try to counter jungle quickly. We might see that come out from Manchester. I know Nocturne can go either way, but if not, Trine University will probably have their jungler start on the top side, Manchester will probably have their jungler start on the bottom side, and then, of course, when they've gone through their whole jungle, they would just sort of end up on the opposite side of the map. So we'll have Nocturne ganking top quickly and Jarvan ganking bottom quickly. If the bottom gank goes well, it is definitely the better one to take. I mean, you get 2 kills instead of 1 kill. Who doesn't love that? Except it also has the higher margin for error, because if you gank bot and you mess it up, then your opponent gets 3 kills instead of 2 kills. So you really don't want that. In the top lane, Mordekaiser does not have an escape. The best he can do to escape is press E backwards so that it pushes champions away from him. But as mentioned, Nocturne has a spell shield and can just say no to that. And Ornn W makes you temporarily unable to be moved. So they can both just kind of ignore it and keep walking at him. I don't know if that means Nocturne might go with Ghost instead of Flash. Because like I said, Flash for a long time has been considered the single strongest summoner spell, and now we're kind of seeing a more flexible take on it. So if we see Ghost Smite in the jungle, because Nocturne, of course, can benefit from fighting for longer rather than fighting quicker and moving 500 units immediately instead of like 2,000 units at over like 5-10 seconds. It probably will be better for ganking top, maybe not better for ganking anyone else. So I think it's really a meta call here. Do you think you'll be focusing on the top lane as the jungler, or will you be going towards the bottom lane repeatedly? I know it might also be better for the middle lane, but you know, for the sake of this, let's just assume middle lane is going to go exactly the same as last time, where both players end the game 0-0 and with 175 farm. because, you know, that just makes assuming things easier if you kind of maybe oversimplify it a little bit. If not, then one of them will get an advantage and then just sort of go crazy from there. It is really fun to watch a burst mage in action if they are doing really well. I have seen, actually in a game today, in the quarterfinals, I believe, the victor just completely blowing someone up. It was a very exciting moment, but that required him to have 7 kills and 300 minion last hits, and also a Dragon Soul, which is maybe an unrealistic amount of advantage to assume for every game, or even most games. But if not, we'll definitely see sparks fly here in Game 2 of Trine University versus Manchester. Oh, no. Okay. So, I don't know if people can hear me yet. Okay, people can still hear me. Great. So I have been cut out of audio just for a second here. We're having some technical issues. New and exciting technical issues, actually. They're completely different from last time. So it shouldn't result in a changed viewer experience for all of you. But it does mean that I will have to be... Yes, okay. I'm being told my understanding of the situation is absolutely correct. So I will have to talk on hard mode a little bit here because I won't be able to hear things happen, only see them, which, you know, especially in a game like this, makes it a little bit harder to tell what's going on, especially when all these spells are flying everywhere. A lot of times League players use a shorthand of just like, what sound effects did I hear? Because they're all very specific and punchy, whereas, you know, visual effects can sometimes just be a bunch of glowing orbs spinning around of various colors, and you sort of have to interpret from that. Either way, it looks like we are all ready for Game 2 of Manchester versus Trine semifinals. Let me just cut away. Well, from what I did see, I will say that is a very standard starting position. Both teams just sort of standing at every entrance to the jungle, so neither team can kind of just sort of walk in and attack them, which is good. Okay. So for right now, we're not having as much aggression as last game. If you remember all the way back then, Kled had to back off completely. There was a ward fight thing happening. This game, we are not having any of that. Both teams are just staying in their, like, what it's called 5 points, so 5-point formation, except Syndra breaking a little bit here to just put down a ward and try and jungle to see what is happening. And it looks like I was actually completely wrong. Both junglers are starting at their respective red buffs, which means that whole valuation I did before, flip it. Trine's jungler is most likely going to gank in the top lane at roughly 3 minutes, whereas Nocturne is going to do the same, but for the bottom lane. And it also worth mentioning, Nocturne did take Flash instead of Ghost, so that is, you know, all that theorizing I did was for nothing. Okay, right now, both teams are just farming. It looks like top lane taking an early CS lead. I'm not really sure how. I think Orin might have just leashed a little bit too long and gotten to lane late and missed a couple CS there at the start. But, you know, when it's 2 or 3 here and there, it's not really insurmountable. In fact, we can see in the gold at the top, Trine is only 100 go. Are you going to count in again? Oh, okay, yes. Welcome back again to Game 2, Trine University versus Manchester University from what is, I must assume, whatever circle of hell is for the very vain people, because I love to hear myself talk, and this could not be happening on Earth. This level of unlucky coincidence is just like a lot. Okay, so since we dipped out there for a second, it looks like in the bottom lane we had Caitlyn get a kill on the Thresh, but no one else was in. Oh, the Jarvan was involved. Okay, so what we can assume there is the Jarvan came down to gank the bottom lane, and they managed to pick off the Thresh. Yes, the Thresh's flash is down, so they just sort of got him out anyway. Well, wish we could have seen it. That seems like a very exciting kind of fight, especially this early, but, you know, win some, lose some. Most of them, actually. Other than that, Varus is now 12 CS up on the Caitlyn, so that's good. Am I cutting in and out? Because my audio is kind of freaking out here. I want to make sure we're all good. Okay, great. That's perfectly fine. Okay, so what was I saying? Oh, yes. Varus was up in CS. I believe that was just because the wave was pushing into them. Now the wave is pushing back. Caitlyn's kind of catching up. She's only 4 down. That is a completely normal amount of variance. In the top lane, we are having Mordekaiser just absolutely giving this Ornn the what for. With a 30 CS lead at 6 minutes. That's kind of intense. Neither player has died yet, which is good. But, you know, if you can get that much advantage without even killing the guy, like, that's going to be a problem later, probably. Especially when the game moves towards, like, you know, beating people up more. In the mid lane, we have Trine's Victor doing his whole combo on the Syndra in order to get half of her health bar and have her just back to base. Again, they're both just going to power farm and then eventually maybe help out in a team fight. Hopefully we get to see when that happens, as I believe I mentioned in the last game when the visuals cut out. I did hear the Syndra doing things, so that would have been very exciting to watch. The Victor just like flashed for nothing. I guess he just misclicked. That's very interesting. We'll have to see if Manchester tries to take advantage of it. Nocturne's right there. They could just throw in a gank here, although Nocturne does not have ult up, and Syndra's not exactly doing a lot of damage just yet. So, might not be. Oh, Jarvan's here. He's going to try to gank the Syndra. But of course, she still has flash and is also under her own tower. That's not going to turn in anything. Trine is now 1,000 gold ahead at the 8-minute mark, just about. No tower platings have fallen yet that I can see. And it looks like Trine did get the first dragon. I believe that was before we came back. But so just important to note, Trine now has a permanent like plus 4% to all damage they do. Which doesn't sound like a lot because it isn't. But, you know, it can make the difference, especially when piled on top of these other incremental advantages that they get. Trine just manages to catch Varus out completely there. The Maokai-Caitlyn combo leading to just like a quick root on him from the Caitlyn, which leads to like the big headshot and a bunch of damage. And then, of course, Jarvan's there, so even if he does manage to get out, it's not going to like save him. But that is just another kill for Trine's bottom lane, this one on the support. Or this one going to the support. And another assist for Trine's jungler. Just sort of increasing that gold advantage slowly. In the bottom lane, we are seeing some tower platings fall as Varus died. That is plus 80 gold to each of Trine's bottom laners. Again, not a huge amount, but these incremental advantages tend to add up when you have a lot of them, which, you know, plus 4% damage, plus 80 gold. Just keeps going like that, I guess. Top lane's still not really doing much in either direction. The Kled Darius matchup, I feel like, was a lot more kinetic than this. This is kind of just waiting for things to happen. Oh, yes, that is the most intense pop-off for a Valorant match I have ever heard. This time I can confirm it is Valorant because I can physically see the match going on. But we can pretend it is because Trine's jungler is going to get a Scuttle Crab, because I think that is a more funny interpretation. They're preparing for Rift here. Oh, the Ornn is kind of caught out. I don't know if he'll be able to get out, except the E destroying the Jarvan ult, definitely powerful. That could be why they picked the Ornn here. He manages to, Mordekaiser managed to get the kill anyway with his ult. But, you know, it's a very interesting interaction we saw there. I'm not sure how many people even know that Ornn can take down these champion-generated walls. It doesn't tend to come up all too often, especially considering I think there's only 4 champions in the game that do that, or make walls, I mean. So there's not too many examples of him destroying it. And then, of course, because his lane opponent is dead and buried, Kettle Whip going ham on these tower plates. Since he's only one person instead of 2 people, he gets plus 160 gold, which is exactly twice as much. Fun fact for all you, anybody who's terrible at math. in the middle lane. Oh, Jarvan's going in for it, and Syndra manages to flash out, but Varus is here to try to back the Syndra up. It looks like they're going to get a kill on the Victor. Oh, that is just a very clean play by Manchester there. They were... I thought for a moment the Syndra was kind of getting baited by the Victor playing so far up, but in fact, the Syndra was only pretending to get baited because she was in fact baiting the Victor, who could then fall in glorious combat there. Although, you know, if you're in the mid lane, you kind of want that kill to be yours. At the very least, so you can try to turn it into more kills. Because right now, Varus can't really do much with it. Yeah, Caitlyn's going to get out here again with just like a sliver of life left. Even though he does have a kill now, it's not going to turn into anything big. Varus going to fire an arrow here in a second. Oh, almost hit the Caitlyn blind, but just barely misses. That would have been powerful. That thing does a lot of damage, especially early. So we could have seen, like, if not Caitlyn dying, Caitlyn panicking so much that she ends up flashing or something. Worth noting, the Rift Herald is going down here in the bottom lane, and Rift Herald charge damage always does exactly 2 plates. So because they got it down to just 2 plates remaining there, it instantly takes down the tower, leading to a huge advantage for Trine. 4,000 gold, roughly, at 12 minutes. For reference, the tower planings themselves don't leave until 14 minutes. So they do get even more extra gold for doing that. And then, even beyond that, the Summoner Spell Teleport does not unlock to being able to target things that aren't towers until 14 minutes. So now Manchester's top laner cannot easily come help their bottom lane do things. Although they do manage to just take a dragon while Trine isn't really able to defend it. I don't think they even knew that was going on. They did not have vision there. So a good play by Manchester. Definitely the kind of comeback you're hoping for if you're a Manchester fan, especially after that last game. They're still a little behind, but they're doing these big kind of macro plays that Trine has been doing this whole time, and trying to win back that advantage. They now have permanent movement speed. Oh, in the top lane, we're going to see the Mordekaiser ult the Ornn. He can't really, like, kill him, though, can he? I don't think so. Or maybe he will. Oh, no, Ornn has flash, so Mordekaiser is... Oh, Mordekaiser's going to die here. The Nocturne's here. Oh, but he does manage to just barely get the Ornn. Mordekaiser does not have shield up again, so that is going to be a one dead Mordekaiser. That is a trade 1-for-1. Although, of course, the Mordekaiser was 2-0 and 63 CS up, so I'd be surprised if that wasn't some sort of shutdown. I didn't exactly look at the bounty screen just before that, but that is a lot of gold on Nocturne, which is exactly where you want to put it if you're Manchester. Hopefully, that means Nocturne can kind of start working on his own game plan more of, like, jumping around the map, killing people who are alone. Like, Victor is currently alone. If Nocturne still had ult up and had already spent all that gold, I have to imagine he would want to go interact with that Victor in a very negative way for Trine. So right now, again, we're just seeing these... the actual gold lead isn't that big. Right now, it's like 3,000, which is fine. But the item lead is just going to be a lot for Manchester to overcome. Trine, again, has all these mythic items completed that Manchester just doesn't yet, either because they haven't spent the money they've gotten yet or because they've just gotten less money. Although, of course, Jarvan just getting caught out would die except for Flash, and manages to escape with his life. Although that was trading Varus ultimate for Maokai ultimate and Jarvan flash. So if Manchester goes for a fight here, they will definitely have a little bit of an advantage. Probably actually enough to win if they play it properly. Not the game, just the fight. But, you know, is there a difference? And like I mentioned, Ornn manages to just block that forced movement there. So top lane again remains mostly empty. What's really interesting to note is that Mordekaiser ultimate, where he sort of points at a guy and goes, "You and I are going to fight now," and then you know, blocks off the rest of both their teams from helping them. That is blocked by that same ability. So if in response to the cast time, that Ornn pushes that button. He will just prevent that ability from happening at all. We haven't seen it happen yet, but if it does, it'll definitely be a powerful play for Ornn, either because it wins him a fight or because it'll just completely mentally shatter Trine. I know it's just like, it seems like a small thing, but, you know, if someone can do stuff like that continuously, you just kind of get the impression that they're just really good at the game. Then you might get a little more intimidated and play worse. Which, you know, Manchester should take every advantage they can get, as should Trine. Whether that's the mental advantage, like picking Maokai second, or the physical in-game advantage, like getting a kill. Right now, both teams just kind of farming. It looks like Nocturne is playing around the top side right now. Rift Herald's going to be up in a second. It looks like they're looking to get a pick on the Jarvan here, who did not know Thresh was there, but just managed to avoid the hook on accident. Very lucky play from Trine. If that hook had landed, I have to imagine he would have died, and then the Rift Herald would have gone down immediately. As for right now, it looks like Nocturne is kind of trying to get it while also half committing to fighting with his team. You can't really do that. Going halfway like that is going to lead to something falling apart. So it looks like Nocturne has kind of decided what he wants to go for. Except Trine is just going to catch out the Thresh. He's going to go down. The Varus has to flash, but the Caitlyn trades flash for it. And Varus manages to not die. Oh, except the Jarvan ult coming down on the Syndra. He immediately dies. The Nocturne ult trying to go to the Maokai, but he manages to escape with his life. The Jarvan gets caught out, although Caitlyn manages to turn that into a kill on the Varus and can maybe even kill the Ornn here. Oh, he gets another kill on the Nocturne and then takes down the Ornn. That is a triple kill for Caitlyn, trading 1 for 5, a complete ace on the side of Trine. And a very well-played team fight. Dragon is up. This will be Trine's second dragon of the game if they decide to go for it, and I don't see why they wouldn't. They're going to take this tower first, and maybe even a second tower, or at the very least push some damage onto it. And then I imagine it's a hunting season for dragons. Or actually, wait. The one person on Trine's side who died is the jungler, which is the one person you need most to do dragon, so they're waiting for him to come back, but in doing so, they inadvertently waited for all of Manchester's team to come back. They can't necessarily take it for free now. So this could turn into another big fight. And if, you know, we have 2 or 3 big fights in a row that all end the same way, that might lead to a very quick victory screen for Trine here. Although it looks like Manchester are having good sense and not really trying to push onto the dragon at the moment. I'm sure they know that they're there because nobody on Trine's team is showing on the map besides the Victor, who wouldn't come help with the dragon anyway. But, you know, going to fight for it right now is not going to work well for them, and I think they know that. The top lane tower is almost going down here. Victor could probably finish it off if he played up a little more, because Ornn has already showed himself using all of those abilities that he has, and I think his cooldowns are a little bit longer than Victor's are at this point, so he can kind of just pressure that tower. But he's not going to. He's going to back and spend the gold he made very wisely, I believe. I don't tend to do that, and it always tends to bite me in the behind. Okay. And if we can hear in the background, that is "Let's Go TU" chant for a Valorant game. So let's pretend that TU is Trine instead of, I believe it's Tiffin. But we can pretend it's Trine. And that we have a legion of excited fans also watching this game with us that are very invested in Trine winning. So Manchester puts down the Rift Herald. They're going to take that tower for free. Oh, and that is a big objective bounty. That is some bonus gold for Manchester. They're coming back into it. And, ooh, Thresh barely misses the hook there. That would have been a kill, I believe, if he landed it, but he did not. And then Trine taking the first tier top lane tower in response for the bottom lane front tier tower. And, you know, now attempting to take the Ornn's life, succeeding in taking the Ornn's life, and probably taking a second tower here too. And I believe they got the mid tower. So that's trading 3 for 1 with towers. And also just someone died in a mostly unrelated fight. That's not good, as we in the industry say. Putting Trine at a lead of 8,000 gold and 10-3, which is, you know, on the optimistic side, closer than it was last game. So we have to take the wins where we can get them for Manchester. And also, all that gold is exactly where they want it to be. Trine has a kill on Jarvan, 2 kills on Mordekaiser, and a kill on Maokai, when really they would prefer they all went to the Victor and the Caitlyn. Most of them did, but, you know, you want them all to be on there. Whereas every single one of Manchester's kills has been on either Nocturne or Varus, the 2 people who need the gold the fastest, the most. So they will do the most damage quickly, which is, you know, it's good. Also of note, we're not seeing the poke Varus that has become popular of late. We're seeing the more traditional sustained damage Varus, which I personally believe is better. So Manchester showing themselves as people of good taste. Caitlyn, of course, doing the standard Caitlyn thing. Caitlyn builds haven't really changed in, you know, years. Oh, the Thresh doesn't realize that Jarvan's there. He gets caught out. I think he did the Lantern to try to bait people into thinking that he had help coming, but he didn't, and Trine called his bluff, and he had to flash over the wall, except then he walks up a little bit too far forward. Oh, that is going to be another kill for Trine. Caitlyn's 7th kill of the game, 7-0 with a 700 gold bounty if someone manages to kill her. That is Nocturne's specialty if Manchester manages to separate Caitlyn from the rest of her team. But, you know, that's kind of a tall ask, especially when they all realize that Caitlyn is their win condition. And they're playing around her very well. In the bottom lane, we are having Ornn attempting to kill Victor on his own. It's not going to work, and both teams will have their respective members walk away, mostly unscathed. Ornn actually going to recall off of that. I'm not sure why. He can build items. That's actually his passive. He does not need to go back to the base to buy items. So ever backing on him when you're that high on health and mana is kind of questionable, unless you want to physically move closer to your base, which I guess could be it, because they are kind of being pushed in their base right now. But at the same time, the fight's already happened. You're not going to make it there 10 seconds ago. You're going to make it there a minimum of 8 seconds later. So, you know, a little bit of a strange play. He could have easily just kept pushing the bottom lane, or at the very least responding to Victor. Victor taking that opportunity to back as well. He actually does need to back to spend gold, and he buys entire Zhonya's off of that. So that is a good back for Victor. That is a lot of gold he just spent that, you know, if you don't spend it, it's just kind of, it's technically advantage, but it's also not doing anything for you, you know? Right now, it looks like since Dragon's coming up soon-ish, oh, I actually have, we have the thing open to see how soon it's spawning. Yes, in 10 seconds, Dragon will be up. Trine is already formed up around it. Manchester is not, but I don't think they're going to rush it down. They're going to try to look for a pick here. They're not going to get one, it looks like. But, you know, Trine wants that Dragon, because, again, if they get 4, it's a big shield permanently on all of their people. Whereas if Manchester gets it, they delay that by a while, and also they sort of close the gap here. They only have 1 Dragon, 2 Trines, 2. But it looks like Manchester is not in position to defend it. I'm not even sure they have vision on it. Oh, they should have seen the Caitlyn walking back and forth to it, but, you know, if you just see the Caitlyn, and also she walks back before it's even dead, do you even assume that that's happening? And even if you do assume that that's happening, can you really afford to fight over it in this position? I don't know. I don't think so, at least. Right now, both teams trying to compile as many of these incremental advantages as possible to, you know, hopefully win the next big fight that happens. Trine doing that in the form of dragons, whereas Manchester's doing that in the form of farm. As you can see, Nocturne's out farming the Jarvan, and Varus is out farming the Caitlyn by quite a bit now. And, you know, even Thresh has more last hits than his opposing laner, which is, you know, normally they just end up very close by nature of supports don't farm that much, but clearly Thresh has been doing something right. Top lane, the outlier here. Nearly a 100 CS gap from Mordekaiser to Ornn. So, you know, top lane kind of walking over Manchester here. Not usually one of Trine's strongest lanes. I mean, you know, Kettle Whip, he's a good guy, you know. Like, I talk to him, he's my friend. But also, as far as the players on Trine's team go, not the best. Not the second best either, probably. Trine's, like, usual victory condition relies on their bottom lane absolutely stomping people with the combination of the support and the ADC. But instead, this game, we're having Kettle Whip show his abilities with these picks, Mordekaiser and Kled. I believe they're both sort of comfort picks for him. The Maokai ult comes down and catches no one because it was a little bit preemptive. I think they were just trying to defend the ward there. Except, oh, Manchester's is going to walk into it. I don't know why you would do that. You know Trine's all there. They just spent an entire ultimate ability defending that ward, and you're just going to walk up and try to clear it again. I don't know about that one. So that is 2 kills immediately. Both on to Caitlyn. So remember what I said earlier about getting those kills on the right people. Trine is doing a good job of that. And that might... If they take the Baron here, it's going to be very hard for Manchester to come back. And they do just get the Baron. It's mostly uncontested. Sort of a half-hearted attempt at a Varus steal, but he wasn't really in range, and he didn't really have vision. The next dragon doesn't come up for another 2 minutes, so they at least can't turn this Baron into a dragon. But what they can do is just take this advantage and split up and push all these different lanes at the same time to put just an obscene amount of pressure onto Manchester to respond to every lane at once, which I believe is a strategy they're going for, as we see 3 people heading to the mid lane, 1 person heading to the bottom lane. Most likely, yes, Mordekaiser here heading to the top lane. So that is going to be the dreaded 1-3-1 split. Personally, I am aware that there is something you can do to counter it. I just couldn't tell you what that is. And if Manchester are in the same position as me, this is going to end poorly for them. Or instead, Trine will set up a pick bush where they can just blow up anybody who walks too close. You know, to each their own, but when you have the big pushing buff, I would imagine that you want to push somewhat. Oh my, oh my. That is the Elgato, no signal. Oh, it got tabbed out. That means the game ends in 3 minutes, I was informed. But, you know, now we can actually watch it happen in real time. Well, you know, 3-minute delay, but real time. So, knowing that the game ends in 3 minutes, do I think Manchester wins this? No. I don't think you physically have enough time to push down all the towers and walk all the way down the lane to end the game, if you're Manchester. And you know what? Nocturne just got caught out, so I feel completely valid in saying I am nearly 100% sure that Trine wins this somehow. This fight is looking like a disaster for them, though. Holy moly. Okay, so Trine gets caught out. Their most fed player gets caught out, except Mordekaiser's here with the cleanup. Oh, that's what happens. Mordekaiser teleports in, immediately gets 2 people killed. Oh, wait a minute. Caitlyn didn't die. I thought Caitlyn died. She was kind of getting blown up there for a second. I'm not sure what happened. Is that... No, she didn't use the stopwatch. Oh my goodness. I couldn't even tell you what happened there. But Caitlyn manages to avoid 5 people jumping on top of her and turns that into a bunch of kills for her team with the assistance of Mordekaiser teleporting in. Now they're going to push a tower, and Dragon is up. And the bottom lane tower is going down too. You can see the Maokai pushing on it on the minimap there in the corner. Yeah, that is another tower down. And they can take their 4th dragon of the game. That is Dragon's Soul. Baron, I don't believe, ends for another 15 seconds, so if they just start hitting the Baron right now, Manchester can't really fight them just yet. Okay. So we have some very devoted Trine fans in the audience. I'm sorry they're so unprofessional, but League of Legends is a very exciting game. And I, in all seriousness, could not tell you what that one was actually for. I have to imagine the Valorant game has ended by now, right? Either way, in the top lane, we have Mordekaiser looking to get a pick on his own against the Syndra as the rest of his team fights over the Dragon. They managed to pick off the Nocturne and the Syndra. Oh, no, the Syndra was just in the top lane. They managed to pick off the Thresh, and then the Jarvan ult locks down the last 2 people, and the game, I believe, is over. They killed all 5 members of Manchester's team without losing a single one. The Baron buff is down, but so is all of the Manchester's base defenses. They can kind of just run forwards and hit the last few structures to end this one. So this is going to be I believe a 2-0 for Trine in this this series, which means they're going from the semifinals to the finals. Isn't that exciting? I mean, you know, talking to Trine, I asked what the possibility was that they thought they'd get into finals, and they seemed to think that they didn't really have too good of a shot. They, you know, like I said, gave themselves 50-50 against Manchester. They gave themselves, I think, 80-20 against their opponents in the quarterfinals. And then, you know, for the finals, most exciting, which happened tomorrow, they told me that they only believe they really have like a 20% chance of winning, which if 50-50 means what we just saw happen against Manchester, I have some high hopes for tomorrow. Although, of course, it definitely could go either way. And I think on paper, their finals opponents, well, they're the people they expected to face in finals, because of course we don't really know that yet, I believe. Their expected finals opponents are definitely a stronger team on paper. I will not say who that is. I'll just leave it as a surprise, because if it does happen, I will definitely remember to mention it tomorrow. Definitely not just forget that I said this. Either way, that is an exciting semifinals match of Trine University versus Manchester University for League of Legends in the Great Lakes Esports Conference, better known as GLEC. So, apologies for all the technical issues that have been happening on this broadcast. A lot of them are out of our control, you know, like anything that relies on Riot's end is a little bit rough sometimes. Their back end there is kind of a little weak, especially the spectator client. Anybody who's watched my broadcast before knows that. But either way, I think that's it from me for Trine University. I've been GLEC, and have a wonderful evening. I hope to see you all tomorrow. I definitely will be here.
Tell me somebody how long he will be on my mind. He will be on my mind.